for questions. Mr. O'Malley, what concessions did you extract from the Social Security Administration union in exchange for this very generous telework entitlement? What did they agree to pay the taxpayers in return? Because they work for the taxpayers, not for you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Well, they gave up $10 to $20 million in potential exposure to the agency because of 7 to 9 years of grievances that were ongoing that we had been unable to resolve. And if they had gone to trial, there was a risk that the agency could have been exposed for 10 or 20. In fact, before I came into the agency, there was a settlement of $22 million on a similar sort of case.
Would that encourage more grievances to be filed if they feel like they could be rewarded for a massive number of grievances? I mean, I'm just curious.
No, let me answer the call to your question. Everything I did at Social Security for that urgent year that the president dispatched me there was about improving customer service.
Yeah.
And sir,
And it's been brought to my attention that the grievances were a subset of telework. So, Ms. Gressler, is it healthy for collective bargaining to be weaponized in this manner, where it's used primarily to bind the hands of the incoming president, where this agreement was mandated or whatever through the entire next administration?
Yes, I think that's an important point. There was an agreement that was in place in 2019, and changes were made to that agreement last minute to bake into the cake to make that telework an entitlement. And all that's doing is giving justification to future union grievances. Absolutely. Because now it's an entitlement, whereas before it would have been negotiated. Absolutely. Now you just can't do it.
How can we prevent this type of abuse?
Well, I think that it already should be clear that this shouldn't be allowed because the president has the duties to faithfully carry out the law, which includes ensuring that telework does not diminish employee or agency performance. If that deference is not given, then I think Congress might need to amend the FLSMR, the Federal Service Labor Management Relations Statute, to either clarify that collective bargaining agreements cannot go beyond a presidential administration, or to ensure that if there are provisions in there that are preventing the president from carrying out their duties effectively, that those provisions must be subject to revision.
Thank you. Mr. Miley, are the taxpayers getting their money's worth for this official time, this new generous benefit from being able to not have to show up in person for work? Are the taxpayers getting their money's worth?
Well, sir, last year was the biggest increase in productivity that the agency had achieved since 2013.
And who measures that productivity with your chart there?
The American people. And
well, the American people that call my caseworker's office would have a different set of graphics for you to display.
We are
there.
definitely struggling, Congressman, because you all have reduced staffing at Social Security to a 50-year low.
So,
notwithstanding that, we have increased productivity and customer service across every major line.
With all due respect, nobody's buying what you're selling if they've had to deal with the Social Security Administration. My last question, my time's running short. Mr. Davis, your written testimony notes that the D.C. area has the highest work-from-home rate in the United States.
Significantly, of the major urban areas, yes.
Yet many of America's most successful companies are actually doing the opposite. There have been many stories that would cite where private companies that experimented with telework are now bringing them back to work. Shouldn't the Trump administration be able to try a different tactic than the failed one of this Biden administration?
Sure, every new administration is going to be able to look at this with new eyes on it. But I just say, the private sector is way ahead of government on this in terms of return to work.
So the District of Columbia is being economically devastated by the massive telework in a region that has the nation's highest concentration of federal office workers. Even Mayor Bowser has testified that she strongly supports the Show Up Act because of the devastating impact in the downtown area where it's a ghost town and all these federal agencies with these highly paid federal workers with very generous benefits, I would argue more generous than most private sector companies, and who are not coming to work. So what can be done about, what does this say about the District of Columbia and the economic devastation from these policies?
Well, it's caused irreparable harm in terms of what their budget does, but more importantly, on a regional basis, and even as far as the federal government goes concerned, what it's done to the metro system is it's reduced ridership significantly. So you have the same infrastructure built to carry a lot more people into work, and they're just not coming. And the biggest drop has been among the federal workforce, which just aren't using Metro to come to work because they're not coming into work. And that's a federal problem. That's not just a D.C. problem.
All right. Thank you. Chair now recognizes Mr. Lynch from Massachusetts.